Happy Easter. I'm going to tell you a short little story. Test the limits of your concentration. Some of you. So this is a story about Easter. And this is a little bit of a sad story, but it's also a very beautiful and very special story because it's about all of us. And that's why we celebrate Easter. Now, this is the story of what happened right after Jesus died. And the time when Jesus died, well, about Jesus. Now, all of you know that Jesus was a great master and that he had great, great love for everyone. But above all, more than anything, he had great, great love for God. And he had great trust in God. And being a master, he was one with God. And so at the time of his death, Jesus was not afraid. When it was time to die, he was brave and he was calm. And after he died, some soldiers took Jesus and they wrapped his body up in long strips of cloth and they put him in a cave called a tomb. And they put a big, heavy rock over the entrance to the cave so nobody could get in there. And Jesus was dead. And they left some soldiers there outside the cave to guard it so that nobody could come there. Why? Yeah. The why is because even though so many people loved Jesus, some people did not. They didn't understand. But the next part of the story is very special. 2 days passed. And it was a Sunday, just like today, very early in the morning, like when Jay gets up. The sun was just barely coming up. And there, the earth began to tremble. And then it began to shake like an earthquake.
What was shaking?
A beautiful light came down from heaven. And there was an angel there. And the soldiers were there at the cave. They fell to the ground. And the big, heavy stone that was guarding the cave moved aside. And at that moment, one of Jesus' good friends, Mary Magdalene, had come to visit the place where they buried Jesus. And she came there, and she saw what had happened. The stone was moved, the soldiers were on the ground, and Jesus was gone. She couldn't believe it. And she was sad, and so she ran away from there. And as she ran, she came to 2 more of Jesus' friends, Simon Peter, and another friend that Jesus loved very much and who loved Jesus. And she told them what happened. And so they ran to the cave to see for themselves. And they saw the stone was moved. They saw that the soldiers were on the ground. And they saw the long strips of cloth that had wrapped up Jesus were folded up there in the cave. Now they believed that Jesus had died, but that God had brought him back to life. And so they ran too, but they ran to tell the others, Jesus' friends, because they believed that Jesus was alive. But Mary did not believe. She stayed there near the cave, and she was crying. She was sad, and she was sitting there crying, and the sun was coming up, and it was bright there. And as she was crying, a man came to her. And he said to her, "Mary, why are you crying?" And she said, "They took my master away. They killed Jesus and they took him away." And again, he said her name, Mary. And she looked up, she was crying, she looked up, and she saw it was Jesus. And he was alive. And she reached out to touch him, but he said, "No, don't touch me yet. I'm going to our Father, to God. And he is your Father too. Go and tell the others." And so she did. Mary ran off to tell all of Jesus' friends and all people, just like I'm telling you now, that Jesus did come back and he is alive. And he came to share God's love with everyone. To share God's love and God's joy forever and forever. And that's what we're doing now. And that's the story of Easter.